Well, good morning, gentlemen. All right, happy Friday, and welcome to another Blackbird workshop here. So let's see here. All right, so I see we still got some more people joining us here. So good. Um, yeah, you know what? There's one name here in the room so far that I don't recognize off the top of my head. So let me ask, the workshop introduction question here before moving on here. Um, all right, yeah. So for anybody, new or fairly new to these workshops, my question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the workshop introduction is I'll explain, what's done in these workshops and more importantly, what is not done in these workshops. All right. And then secondly, I'll explain how the recordings work. So if you ask a question, you'll know how quickly you can get a copy of that recording. And then lastly, third item here, I'll explain what indicators I will install into my machine here in case you have a question about using a third-party indicator there or some custom indicator. So, all right. So if anybody would like to hear that workshop introduction, let me know. So I'd like to get that out of the way first before moving on to our first question here. So there was a question that was emailed in that will get today's workshop started. And then after that, gentlemen, I'll take your guys' questions live in the Q&A window there. So, all right. And yes, happy Friday, Charles. And to those in the US, yeah, happy holidays. So, let's see here. All right. So I guess there's no takers on the workshop introduction. Okay, so let's dive into our first question here. Um, so, a trader here has a set of rules here. We can see, right, rule A through D. And they want to be able to have Blackbird execute them sequentially, right, or in order, right? So trailing rule A executes first, and then B can execute next, right? So in other words, make sure that rule D doesn't execute until, A, B, and C execute, right? And so with this screenshot here that was sent in, we can see that, right, it's essentially it's monitoring different profit levels of the trade there, right? Now, as far as, being able to execute trailing rules, with in a specific order, that's not directly supported yet. So, to do that comes with a lot of other requirements, to make that really fully functional. So it's a lot more to it than just adding another option here to the evaluate. So now, but the way these triggers are set up, we actually can set up the triggers in a way so that each rule is executed, in a specific order, right? A, B, C, and then D last, right? And so what we're going to do is we're just essentially going to combine all of these profit targets here and use the mode within the trigger to be able to set up a sequential, execution of each trailing rule there. So, all right. So with that, let's get Blackbird open here and get started. All right. So I'm just going to go with the market order because the question here is really about setting up the stop loss trailing rules. And also, I guess just to be practical here, let's go with an ATR stop loss. And then also, I'm going to increase that stop loss to something reasonable. I don't know, maybe 10 is maybe a little far-fetched. But we can see from the screenshot here. Actually, no, you know what? It's not that far-fetched. That's right. Rule D says, is looking for a profit of 10 ATRs. So with that, I guess I should crank this down even further. Let's just go 20 there. Call it good. All right. So let's switch over to the trailing rules and let's enable the trailing capability there. All right, we'll add our 4 trailing rules like so. And then next, let's pull up our screenshot here. All right. So rule A, right, it's going to trigger once the trade has at least some profit to at least 2 ATRs in profit there. All right. So really, the 0.1 ATR, is not necessary for the first one there. Yeah, it's a little overkill, but I don't know. Maybe somebody does actually want to wait until 0.1 is reached. So, well, actually, what this also does effectively is, as soon as we get, this 0.1 ATR in profit, then this 3 ATR trailing rule can kick in immediately here, right? It can kick in immediately. You could also just exclude rule A, right? So we could just leave this trigger here set to none, and then just put in our, let's see, what was that? Yeah, 3 ATR trailing. So we could just put that in there. Actually, yeah, last price. And there's our ATR. Put in -3. All right, and there we go. And also remember to set this repeat to indefinitely. And since we, assuming here, yeah, shoot, we don't see exactly everything what's inside the repeat here, but I'm gonna assume this trailing is probably happening tick by tick. All right, so yeah, we'll just put ticks of movement there instead of once per bar, but once per tick, something like that. That's probably what that's set at. So yeah, so trailing rule A really doesn't need a trigger here, but for the sake of showing how we can set up the triggers to execute, in a specific sequence here, A first, B second, C third, D last, we'll just go ahead and add this in here. All right, there's our profit or loss. Set this up to profit using ATRs. We'll set this up exactly the same here. Like so. All right, so there is our first rule there, right? 0.1 to 2 ATRs in profit there. All right, so now we need to also add, right, the trigger, the requirements here, the condition for rule A into rule B, C, and D. So let's go ahead and add that in here. like so. There. Now we're also going to switch over to the advanced tab here. So very, very important here. Switch over to the advanced tab there. All right. And we'll circle back around to this here. So, all right, let's keep going. And grab that profit or loss one more time. There we go. Switch over to the advanced tab. There. All right. And one last time. There. All right. So there we go. We have our first, profit trigger there in all four of them. And also, just so we can see, I'm going to stretch this way out. There. There. All right, so now rule B is between 2 and 3 ATRs in profit here. All right, so let's open up rule B here. So we already have the 0.1 to 2. So that's that. And so we're going to add another profit or loss. Right? So we can see we have 2 profit or loss triggers in here. So let's set this one up. All right. This time we're going from 2 to 3, like so. Now that we have, right, 2 triggers, right? We have this profit or loss up here, right? Going from 0.1 to 2. And then we have the second one going from 2 to 3. So now the way we can get these two, these trailing rules to execute in sequence is we have a mode here that says all in sequence, right? So that means, right, the profit or loss trigger, the lowest, well, the trigger, the condition for rule A needs to be up on top, and then the condition for rule B is second, right? So this profit amount needs to happen first, and then this next profit amount happens second, right? So there we go. All right, so again, the key here is to use the mode all in sequence here. So, all right, so now we need to also add that 2 and 3 ATRs of profit to rule C and D. Right, so we're gonna, add those in here. So let's add another profit or loss, and then set this up. There we go. 2 to 3, like so. All right, there we go. So this, right? So rule C here looks just like rule B so far. So, right, we have 0.1 to 2 as the profit or loss trigger up on top. And then the second one down below here is, right, 2 to 3. And then also remember to change the mode. So we need all in sequence there. All right, there we go. So we have rule C set up, and we're going to do the same thing for rule D here. So let's change our mode. Oops, switch over to the advanced tab. There we go. Get switched over to the advanced tab. Now we have a mode, right? So just a quick note here, right? The basic tab doesn't have a note because there's only one trigger that you can use at a time. So the advanced tab allows you to use multiple triggers here. All right, so now we have the mode here. Let's set this to all in sequence. There we go. So our first profit or loss is 1.1 to 2. Let's go add a second one here. Set this up like so. All right, so we're going 2 to 3. Oh. And let's see here. I'm getting an X. There might be some weird character in there. Hold on. There. And, oh. All right, yeah, here's the problem here. Yeah, let's just put 30 in. And now I need to go and knock that down to 2. There we go, right? So we couldn't put the minimum amount can't be larger than the maximum amount, right? Obviously. So there we go. All right, 2 to 3. There. Now we got it. Let's see, all in sequence. And yep, we're good to go. So these should all read the same here, right? 0.1 to 2, and then 2 to 3, and yep, there we go. Okay, so now rule C. Let's see, what do we have here for rule C? So rule C is 3 to 9.9. Yeah, all right. 3 to 9.9. So let's close that, and let's add no profit or loss. There's our third one down here. Get everything switched over like so. There we go. There. 9.9. There we go. The mode, always just double check your mode just in case there. Still in sequence, so good. All right, so there we added our third trigger there for rule C. So let's add that to rule D as well. So let's add another profit or loss trigger. Set up the mode and the units. And then, there we go. All right, so now rule C and D should also read the same here. All right, so there we go. 0.1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 999. So call it good, you know. And of course, you know, I don't think you really need to add the 0.01, right, or the 0.999. You know, if you think about it in the bigger scheme of things, yeah, it's probably, you know, I mean, it's fine to do that, but it's also just going to be extra work as well. So, you know, but, you know, if you absolutely had to make sure, you know, that rule A goes to 2 and B, you know, rule B only fires after 2 ATRs, then yeah, you know, then we could do that here. So yeah, if we wanted to refine it, there we go. Oh, actually, there. I needed to open up the second profit or loss. There we go. Put that in there like that. Yeah, so if you really, really wanted to be precise, there. There. All right, one last one here. There we go, like so. All right, so rule C is complete, right? It has 0.1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 10, essentially. So now rule D is going to be 10, you know, yeah, just 10 or above, right? So let's open up rule D here. Add another profit or loss. Set everything up. Just enable the minimum there. And the minimum is 10. And there we have it. So also, one thing to note here, that this ATR period is defaulted to 50, right? Whereas in the actions here, right, this menu here, if we open up, right, the move to, so for this menu here, we can see the ATR defaults to 14, right? Standard period for most indicators there. So just, be mindful of that. So, 14 obviously will keep your trailing more in line, with recent trading volatility, whereas, in the profit or loss, 50 will smooth you out, even more. So, all right. Anyways, so here we have it. There. So as we can see, to kind of summarize here, where we took rule A there, the requirements for rule A, zero point 0.1 to 2 ATRs, added that trigger or that triggering condition to rule B, C, and D, right? And we're just stacking them all together there. So that way, rule D, right? Rule D says, each of these profit or losses needs to occur in sequence, right? So that way D has to wait for, rule C, which is 3 to 10, right? And before that has to wait for rule B, which is 2 to 3 ATRs. So on and so forth. Right? And then of course, you can set up, whatever your trailing distance is, however you want to tighten that up, or whatever it is you might be. So we can see here we have a little combination here. So I wasn't given this information. The question was all about, how can you set up your trailing rules so that they execute in a specific sequence there. But yeah, so, but we can see here that also the actions, it is using some ATR trailing, and then it moves to an EMA. So set up your actions here according to whatever you'd like. So all right, well, that does it for this question here that was emailed in. So with that, gentlemen, I leave it up to you guys to post any questions you have for Blackbird into the Q&A window there for me. All right, if anybody has any follow-up questions on this, let me know. All right, so as I'm waiting for the next question to come in here, I'm just gonna mute my microphone. And also, let's see where we at. Well, we're almost at the 30-minute mark. So, all right, again, guys, if you have questions for Blackbird, go ahead and get them into the Q&A window there for me. All right, we got another question here from Aaron. All right, so Aaron wants to add to an existing open position here, add to it when it's profitable and when an indicator is true on a different chart and time frame. Yeah, okay, so all right, so here let's get Blackbird open here. All right, so the question is about adding another contract or so. So I'll just create a market order here, right? So to do that, all right, we're going to use the placement option here, the place option here, right? So in other words, this entry will not execute until the conditions, right, the triggers to place it become true. So, all right, so let's open this up here, and we'll need to go to the advanced tab because there's two requirements, right? The existing trade needs to be, in some profitable amount, and then also we need to analyze an indicator. So, all right, so hold on. Well, yeah, I guess we'll start with the mode here. There. So we'll use all simultaneously. And then let's add the profit or loss trigger, right? So, set up the profit or loss, to, whatever you want there. I'll just go with ticks or points there just to keep it kind of simple there. And let's say you want it, I don't know, at least, 4 points of profit there. Yeah, maybe 10 if you're going to add to it. I don't know. All right, so there's the first requirement. Now, the second requirement of interrogating an indicator that's on another time frame there, that is more unique here. But the way you do it, right, is you're looking for an indicator value there. So we can use that trigger, indicator value there. And of course, plug in your indicator here. And then to check if some value is true or not, right? So that's a matter of, right? Let's see if there is an indicator I could kind of use. Yeah, let me go with the better volume here. Yeah, so the better volume, it has a base volume, but it also has this data series here called a bar type. Yeah, so I'll just use this, in placement of this unknown indicator here. So, right, so obviously you would be selecting that true or false output from that custom indicator there, right? And then when the output is true, right, it's going to equal a value of 1. So for the long trade, just say equal to 1. Or you could also just, same thing is you can just say, all right, greater than 0, because right, if it's true, it's going to be 1. If it's false, it'll be 0. So obviously true is greater than 0. So either way, however you like to read it. So I think probably most people would like to read it to just say, okay, if it equals 1, then I know it means, is it true? Right. Same thing for the short there, equal to 1. So that's how you would check whether an output is true or false there. Now, the key thing here is Blackbird does not place indicators on secondary timeframes, right? That's not the job of Blackbird to be managing other indicators. So this custom indicator needs to load in this other instrument and time frame itself. So yeah, and then there you go. So that, yeah, essentially that's how you do it. So you would use the profit or loss, and then use an indicator value, and then most importantly, make sure this custom indicator can load in whatever instrument and time frame you want it to be running on. So that has to be incorporated into that indicator there. All right, so with that, let's see. It looks like there might be some follow-ups here. All right, yeah, so follow-up here is, yeah, Aaron's saying he's going to be using shark signals. Okay, yeah. So if this indicator is from TradingView, then obviously you're going to have to convert that indicator from TradingView into NinjaTrader. So, yeah, and so while you have that indicator being converted, just make sure that you also add the ability for that indicator to load in, whatever instrument you want it to run on and or time frame as well. So, yeah. All right. Let's see what else we have here. And okay, well, I think that does it for Aaron's question. So, all right. Yeah. And there. Oh, also, just should also mention, just to kind of round out, the question here, or the round out the usage of the placement. Just remember that you always have to include some kind of cancellation rule. Otherwise, right, your scale-in orders get left in a pending state indefinitely. Blackbird isn't going to randomly decide that, oh, this scale-in order is no longer valid, right? You have to tell the software when something is not valid. So always remember that whenever you use the place option, you also have to use the cancel option as well. So you'll have to kind of figure out, when is this scale-in, no longer valid. Something pretty common would be, let's go to the advanced tab here. Right, something fairly common, and we're going to delete that interval, is to use order status changed. And obviously if the stop loss, right, if the stop loss for your first order here is not placed, but if it's filled, then obviously the trade is usually over and done with, right? And the same thing might apply to a profit target. So yeah, so you might need, well, actually this doesn't have a profit target, but yeah, commonly, if you have a profit target and a stop loss, you would check to see if either either one of those is filled, and then you know that probably your scale in, order here should be canceled, right? And just be mindful, right? Your stop loss and your profit target, they're not going to both be filled at the same time. So the mode here all simultaneously, that'll never happen, right? So make sure you just say any, right? So any means, right, if the stop loss is filled or if the profit target is filled. So of course, if we had a profit target there, so there. Okay, there we go. And yeah, Aaron is asking a question here that was asked yesterday. Yeah, is it okay to upgrade to 8.1.7? So we've done some initial testing. It hasn't been um, uh, aggressive, but so far so good. So I'm actually running. Yeah, I am actually running um, 1.7.0 right now. So yeah, so everything seems to be good. You know, obviously until it's not. So it's impossible to test every scenario there, but yeah, so far. And also, Ninja didn't mention anything in their release notes that sounded like it would be problematic. So yeah, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Milroy has submitted a question via email. Well, I don't see your question here. Let me reload the ticketing system. There we go. Okay. There. All right. Give me a moment here to absorb Melroy's question. Okay. So, all right. So I think I understand what the question is here. All right. So we have essentially uh, three order sets here. Um, yeah. So I guess one thing I need clarified here, Melroy. What do you mean activate? Trades don't really activate. Um, you don't activate an order. So if you could clarify, what this actually means here, um, that yeah, then I can address that. So I can do all the rest here, um, but I don't know exactly what that means there. So um, let's see here. Um, well, all right. So let's get Blackbird open here and get started. And let's clear this all out. All right. So we know we're dealing with three contracts here, basically three order sets. So let's go ahead and create those real quick. I might go back and delete B and C, but I'm just gonna throw them out there for now. So, all right. So the first one here. Um, so we have a stop loss of 60 ticks and a take profit of 120. All right, so let's do our take profit here, and I'll just put in 50. Actually, let me put in 20. Open this up. There. All right, and we'll just put a 1 in front of that. There we go. There's our 120 for the take profit there. And all right, let's see here. Stop loss. Yeah, hold on a moment here. I got something weird going on. Oh, yeah, looks like Ninja 1.7.0 glitched out and wouldn't stop with the order filled sound. So hopefully this next update of Ninja doesn't introduce new bugs, but we'll see. All right, so moving on here. So we got our take profit. Let's get to our stop loss. There, all right. Click that. Let's go to our stop loss. There, we'll go to tick stop losses. And we don't quite have a trailing here. Or, I'm sorry, we don't have a 60 tick one. But I'm going to go with, I think this 40 tick with trailing and the break even is pretty close to what we have in mind here, right? So when there's 40 ticks of profit, then we're going to move that stop loss to break even plus 20. So this will get us in the ballpark, and we just have to adjust the numbers here. So let's go with that. All right, we'll open this up. There. And All right, so the initial placement here is we're starting with a 60 tick stop loss. And shrink this up a little bit. All right, next let's go to the trailing actions here. And looks like from the previous questions, the columns here are still squished up. There we go. Yeah, it looks better. All right. So this doesn't actually have, what standard kind of tick by tick trailing there. So I'm actually going to delete this 40 tick trailing, get that out of there, and just keep the break even here. So let's see, this is going to be a break even plus 20. Yeah, there we go. 40 ticks of profit there. All right, so we adjusted the name. Now let's go in and set up the trigger here. So the trigger, there we go, is going to be 40. All right. So 40 ticks of profit there is our trigger. And then the action is, right, we're going to move our stop loss to, right, it's going to be the entry price plus 20. There you go, plus 20 ticks. Yeah, there we have it. All right. So now, let's see. All right, yeah, so you know what? I am going to go and delete these order set B and C, as I thought I might, simply just so I can make a copy of A. So let's copy A there. All right, so for A, we're or order set B, right, trade number 2. So we're still using a 60 tick stop loss. Our profit is 100. So let's go into the profit target. Go to the options tab. Open up the initial placement and set 100 in there. There we go. All right. Now for the stop loss. All right. So, all right. So this stop loss is also going to move as well. Yeah. So once there's 40 ticks in profit, then we're gonna move that stop loss, to break even plus 20. So, all right. So if we look at the trailing actions, we already have that in there. So, so one thing to keep in mind here is that NinjaTrader does not track the individual P&L for individual orders, right? So the only thing that Blackbird has access to is the P&L of the entire trade, right? P&L of the entire trade. So, So for order set B here, we're going to have to use something different here. So instead of using the interval to track, when there's 40 ticks of profit here, right? So from the interval, this tracking of 40 ticks of profit is actually going to come from the first entry order there, right? It applies to the first entry order. So we're going to have to switch this over to profit or loss. We'll set this to profit, set this to ticks, and then put in, yep, the 40 ticks there of profit, not 400. Now, again, remember, this 40 ticks of profit is based off of what NinjaTrader provides. So in this case, it's going to be 40 ticks of profit from the average entry price here, right? So, and let's see here. All right, yeah, so we're still moving this stop loss to the entry price plus 20 here. So, yeah, so you might want to consider, Bloodhound, or I'm sorry, Blackbird does have the entry price, right? Well, actually, now it says average entry price. Sorry. Yeah. So you can either take this plus 20 from the average entry price, right, between both market entry orders there, or yeah, one thing that Blackbird does have access to is the entry price for the entry order of B. Right, so this entry price here would be the entry order price for B, right? So either way. So, all right, I'm just going to leave it on, yeah, average entry price there. And sorry about that. Oh man. All right. So yeah, I'm sorry about the interruption there. It's crazy how programs don't actually shut down when you actually close them nowadays. There's always something running in the background. Yeah. All right. So getting back here to our break even stop loss. Let's see here. All right. Okay, so we have the 40 ticks of profit there for our second order set here, or second trade. Yeah. All right. And lastly, let's set up our third contract here. All right. So let's make a copy of B. And there's our third one. Now for order set C here, our third contract, 80 ticks. All right, so let's go into our profit target, go to the options tab. There you go. Put in 80. All right, so we have that set. And our stop loss, again, it's going to start off at 60, right? Yeah, so my guess is, this is the stop loss is also following the same break-even rules here. So yeah, all right. So we're just going to keep, keep the same break-even trailing rules here. So yeah, our stop loss is 60 ticks, so the same, and our break-even here, instead of break-even plus 20 there. Yep. All right. So there we have it. So yeah. All right. So now we have some additional requirements here. So when our second trade here moves to break even, we want the stop loss, right, for the first trade or order set B to move another 20 ticks here. All right, so let me think about that here. All right, so let's go into the order, the stop loss order for A, and okay. Let's see here. So B, what can we do? I guess, all right, so the first thing we're going to need to know here is we need to know, did the entry order for B, right, was that placed? Or actually, probably more precisely, was it filled, right? Was it all filled? Was any part of it filled, right? So in other words, yeah, was the entry order for B submitted and filled? So, yeah, and then we need to switch over to the advanced tab first. So once our entry order for B has been filled, then we can start checking the profit or loss there. Let's put that in, and 40 there, 40 ticks. Right. Now the mode here is, right, we're not going to get we're not going to get, the entry order filled and 40 ticks of profit at the same time there. So the mode we're going to change to in sequence, right? In sequence. So obviously the entry order gets filled first, and then X number of seconds later, then we would reach the 40 ticks of profit there. All right. So that is our, so that's our condition there for moving the stop loss when B also moves there. Right. All right, so now the action here. Let's see here, the action. All right, so we're going to use a data point or a price point here that's not used that often here, but it does come in handy when it's needed here. So we're going to take right? Basically what's going to be the previous order price, and then add another 20 ticks to it. Yeah. Right. So yeah, we're going to move those stop losses by another 20 ticks there. There. And of course, again, these are all kind of one-time actions here, kind of like a break-even type of action. So the repeat just is left on none there. So, and all right, one more. So rule C is when the stop loss for order set C, when that gets triggered there. All right, so for C, we're going to build essentially the same set of triggers that we did for rule B. So let's set this to in sequence. All right, and let's add the order status changed. So we want to know when the entry order for C is filled. There we go, when it's filled. And then we will check the profit or loss. All right, check for profit there. All right. And just thinking if there's anything else. Nope, I think that's it. Yep. So if we stretch these out, yeah, there we go. All right, so now let's go to our actions. And so once again, right, the starting price here is we're going to take the previous order price and then add 20 to it. There. All right, there we have it. Yeah. All right, so we need to add rule C to order set B, right? So that stop loss, it will move at least one more time when the stop loss for C moves to its break even plus 20 there. So let's open up the stop loss here for B. We're on the trailing actions. There we go. Let's add another trailing roll here. And so let's set up our triggers. And let's switch over to the advanced tab. Once again, our mode's going to be in sequence. So what's the first thing we need? We need to know when did C get filled here? When did it get submitted? There. All right, and then the next one is check the profit. Like so. All right, and then go to our actions. All right, and let's go and select that previous order price there. And there, I think that's all we needed to add to the stop loss for B. Yeah, it's just that last stop loss movement there when the stop loss for C goes to break even, plus 20 there. Okay. There. And all right, just give me a moment here to just read the question through and just double check, make sure I got everything covered. All right, yeah, let me pull up the screenshot here that was sent in. So, um, this, my guess is, yeah, that this screenshot is adding a piece of information that's not mentioned in the writing. So, all right, so we can see on the screen we got 1.1, 2, and 3. And so we know the first trade's at 0.1. So I would be guessing that the trade number 2 is at 0.2. Trade number 3 is at 0.3, even though it's not mentioned here. Yeah. So the one thing that wasn't incorporated here, is because I don't, I have no idea what's 0.2 and 0.3. So the one thing that's not mentioned here is setting up the placement here so that B scales in later and C also scales in later there. But, to do that, that would be done using the placement here. So, yeah. All right. So with that, I believe that's as far as I can go with this question. So, yeah. And all right. Well, I don't see any follow-up questions on this currently. So let's see where we're at. All right. So we got past the 1 hour mark and are approaching the 1.5 hour mark. All right. So yeah. So with that, gentlemen, I will hang around until the bottom of the hour to see if anybody else has any more questions. So basically 10 more minutes or so. Yeah, just to see if anybody else has any Blackbird questions. All right, and if I don't see any more questions, yeah, by the time we hit the bottom of the hour, then I will, assume we're done for the day and we'll call it a Friday. All right, guys, so, and so until the next question comes in, or if we hit the bottom of the hour, in the meantime, I'm just going to mute my microphone here. All right, so if you have any follow-up questions on what we did or new questions, you guys know the drill. Put those questions into the Q&A window there for me, and I'll get them answered. All right, or Blackbird questions, of course. Okay, guys, I'm going to mute my microphone until the next question comes in. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it here. So it's the bottom of the hour, and I haven't seen any questions in quite some time. Yep. So with that, guys, yeah, we'll close up shop and get ready for the holiday weekend. All right, guys, everybody, have a good weekend and maybe have some fun barbecuing in the backyard or whatever it is you're gonna do. So, yeah, weather's really nice out there. So, yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend, at least around my area. So, all right, guys, with that, um, that'll wrap it up. And uh, yeah, nothing else. All right, so I'll see you guys next week, next time. All right, bye bye, guys.